Alright, you bastards, this is Some-Belgian-prepper, and before we are going to talk about the subject of today, if you're interested in detective stories, look into the description. There will be a link to my first book called Bloody Crosses. It's in Dutch, so take a look if you're interested. So today we're going to talk about sharpening your tools, and we're going to talk about different ways to sharpen your tools. It will be sharpeners for your bug out, sharpeners for the bug in, and improvise sharpeners. So, why it's something that is often overlooked by especially beginning preppers. I made this mistake as well, and one of the things that I noticed is that is one of the axes, and it's very, very not sharp. Blunt is perhaps the name, and it's because I did not take care in the beginning of this axe. I found it recently, and I looked at it, and I saw I did not really take care of this axe, even though in the beginning of my prepper years I used it a lot. So yeah, that's why I'm making this video to set a point straight. So, what kind of sharpening tool? What for kind of sharpeners are best? Well, the best are the ones that you're used to working with. Some people can just use a whetstone and they can make amazing sharp knives, and other people will need more specialized tools, but they will do a phenomenal job of it. And some people can do it just with improvised tools. So first of all, let's talk about what kind of sharpening tools would you put in your bug out bag. Well, first of all, these are ones that are usually found in camping stores. If you can see, these are some sharpening tools, and usually they are all in the. They all have the same. Um, how do you say this? The same pattern. If you have a knife like this is my Glock knife. What you usually have is you have a carbide sight. It's usually on the, if you can read it, I don't know if you can read it. You have a carbide sight and you have a ceramic sight. So this one is for fine sharpening, and this one is for more the crude sharpening. So what you do is just you put it, you take it into the first the carbide sight, and you pull it towards you, and that way you can sharpen it. The more you can sharpen more most of the metal, but for the finer work to make it more, it will not be razor sharp, but for the carbon side, it's more for the fine tuning of a more sharpened edge. And that's just it for a bug out, I would say. What I want to notice is if you're going to take one of these tools, they are usually made out of plastic. And for people who think, why would you have some? Is there nothing smaller than this? And the answer is there is a reason for this. If you usually when you're sharpening something, you do it at water, because like a whetstone, you need to sharpen it, and if you drop it into the water, it will be perhaps you will lose it. But something like this made out of plastic, and it will float when you drop it into the water, so you can retrieve it. So that's a little handy thing about it. The same thing goes with this. This has some rubber parts that you can have a more stable part of it, and the same thing goes carbon side, and then you have the ceramic side for fine tuning. So I would prefer actually this one, because this kind of sharpening tool has another option, and that is it has this diamond sharpening pole. So why would you need this? Well, first of all, if you have a multi-tool like this, you will notice that some of the multi-tools have this serrated edge, and a lot of people ask why is there a serrated edge to this knife? Well, first of all, if you're going to sharpen it, use the same thing. You carbide for the straight edge, the ceramic for the other one. Do it multiple times, and then you have for the serrated sides, you can use this. So you can sharpen it for this, and you can sharpen the serrated side. And this is for when you're going to cut something with a lot of fiber. So like if you're going to make ropes out of stinging nettles, or you're going to build shelter and you have a lot of pieces of how do you call this, vessels, not vessels, vezels, it's called in Dutch. You know, when there is a lot of pieces of rope-like material that is harder to cut through. That's why you need the serrated side of a knife. So that's the reason why. So you can do this. That's why I prefer this tool, and it also has a fire starter, and you can start it fire with that way. So yeah, this is what I would put in my bug out bag. And another thing that I have in my bug out bag usually is a whetstone, and I taped it to my block knife, but it's more for in case. It's not really that I'm going to use this a lot because the whetstone need to be wet, but it's just that I never, if I only have my knife, that I have just a way to make it, to always have it by my side to sharpen it when I need to. So it's not like I'm going just, oh, I need to sharpen my knife doing this thing because it need to be get wet. And yeah, water and metal is not a good combination. So after you're sharpening it with a whetstone, you need to oil it again so it will not start to rust from the water, even if you dried it thoroughly with a piece of cloth. So that's something that you need to watch out for. So that is more like a backup whetstone in case I lose or broke my usually sharpener for my bug out. So that is the bug out part. Let's go to the next part, the bug in scenario. So before a bug in scenario, there are mainly three tools I would prefer to have by my side for several reasons. First of all, you can also use your sharpeners from your bug in, no problem. But first, I would prefer to have this. This is a sharpener from my grandfather. As you can see, it just works as the same way. It has these metal cylinders inside of it, and that way you can sharpener your just everything with that has a thicker blade to say. So you can take an axe and you can sharpen it. Be aware that you have to pull straight, that you don't wobble it while you're doing it. So that way you can sharpen your thicker knives, and you can sharpen other knives as well. But if you want to be more, how do you say this? If you want to be a more sharpener, like if you have a fine kitchen knife like this is very thin. I would advise to take something like either a whetstone or diamond plate, diamond plate sharpener. But I do not prefer this one. This was more for testing, and the thing is, when this gets wet, it's easy to rust, and it's a little bit more heavier, and it's very crude. So yeah, I do not prefer this kind of sharpener. It was just more for a test. So what you want to do is, I use the whetstone I mainly use for my razor. So if you have a straight razor like this that I need to sharpen right now because I noticed that it's not up to date anymore. So if you have a whetstone like this, it has two grids. It has a grid of 3000 and it has a grid of 8000. What you want to do is first submerge your whetstone in water. How long? As long as there are bubbles coming out of it, that means that the water has not penetrated, submerged the full stone. The moment you don't see any bubbles, the whetstone is fully immersed. And what you do is, you first take the how do you say this? The lesser fine stone. In this case, it will be the 3000s. And what you want to do is, you want, especially in this case, you want to start from corners, and you want to use the right pressure onto the knife in the right angle with a sharpener like this, with a razor straight like this. It is already usually in the good angle to sharpen it. But if you have another knife, something like this, what you want to do is you want to do it in the correct angle. There are certain tricks you can do this. Everyone has their own. Some people like to take a marker and start to draw on the edge, and the moment that the edge disappears after the sharpening, that's your correct angle to sharpen your knife. In this case, for a straight razor, you start from the left hook and you start to work your way, turn, and you keep doing this till it's sharper. And for more finer, for use the finer grit of the whetstone, you regularly make it wet. So yet again, you can use it like this. Put more pressure on this. I'm not putting pressure around this because it's not wet right now. It's just to show you how you would do it. And what you do next, because I forgot it, because I'm an idiot. I forgot this to take with me. What you want to do is you take one of these leather straps. What you first do is one of the leather straps contains with something like a jeans material. So yeah, what you want to do is first of all you want to hang it onto something sturdy. Yeah, I did not prepare this well, and then you put it while it's hanging to something. You pull it, and you want to first of all to the jeans material. You want to right, how do you say this? To place your straight razor on top of it to dry it. So the moment that it's dried, you take the leather strap, this part, yet again pull it, and then you can start to finer tune it. Something like this. No, I'm not doing it correctly, but it's just to give you an idea how this works. And that is the last part that you have to do to make it razor sharp. So yeah, and be very carefully about it because once it's very sharp. So this is a whetstone that I'm using. Next thing that I'm using after this, that is this sharpening stick. I do not know the English name for it, so if somebody in the comments can tell it me, yeah. It's just something like the butcher's use, and you have to be like this, and it can also make your finer knives very, very sharp. The reason why I do not like to take this with on a bug out bag is because this material can rust easily if it's not maintained really good. So yeah, that's the reason why it's more for a bug-in scenario. And this kind of stone is a little bit too heavy to put in your bug out bag. Hence the reason why I use this whetstone for more as a backup. So these are usually the things that you're going to use. There is one more option, but this is like a whetstone that you use more for an axe that you can use like this. But I don't like this to use this for several reasons. One, it's more heavier. Second, it will not last for long because this material just breaks off like crazy. I don't know if that's because this one I just recently bought to see how it works, and I'm not really impressed by it, so to say. So this is something that I really don't like to use, not for a bug out and not for a bug in. So if you are in a survival situation and you do not have a sharpener, but you want to sharpen your knives, there are several things you can do. If you find in a shed or something during the scavenging, you find sandpaper. My luck is just out because I was looking for sandpaper before starting this video, and I just used my last sandpaper. So pretend that this is sandpaper. If you have sandpaper and you want to sharpen your tool, your multi-tool during the bug out, you can, just as the same thing as the whetstone, you can start to sharpen your knife with it, with a piece of sandpaper. Another thing you can do is if you're doing the scavenging, you find a file like this. That's also a good way. You can just use it the same way as the butcher stick is what I'm going to call it. Try to keep a good angle, and you can also, it's more handier when it's a round one like this. You can use it the same way as the butcher ones. And yeah, a file is also something that is prone to rusting. In this case, you can already see it. There is some rust on top of it, and yeah, but it's still usable if you find a file to sharpen your tools or whatever. Another thing that you can do is use just a stone. Use, if you're in a city, just use the concrete to sharpen your tools. Um, and that's a little bit more crude, but you can manage to sharpen a tool. This is especially something that people use in prisoner camps, in jails, in prison, or people that are captured and are kidnapped. As long as you have something like concrete or stone and you have something metal, you can file it and sharpen it into something very sharp and use it against your attacker or for some survival tasks. Uh, there's one more thing, and I'm not sure about this, and I hope somebody in the comments can tell me. Uh, People that use sand for sharpening. I've heard about some techniques where they use something like pine tree sap on a piece of wood and they sprinkle it with sand and they use that as an improvised file. I don't know if that is that practical, but I guess it's better than nothing. And another thing is, I heard people that use sand that they push it a little bit closer and they use it in something in the, like with two pieces of wood where the sand is pushed in and that they use that to sharpen their tools. I'm not sure about this technique because I cannot use it because I don't have sand that is crude enough. Something like sand on a beach, which has more thicker particles of sand, can be used in this way perhaps, but with regular sand, that's not the case. That I don't have that around here. Perhaps if you use something like on a river bank, some Rhine sand or something like that, that could be a possible usage of this kind of technique, but I'm not really sure about it. If somebody in the comments know or has used this technique, please let me know how you do it and some things that I need to watch out for. So please let me know. I'm always eager to learn new things. That's the reason why I started channel. So yeah, sharpening, it's something that is often overlooked, and yeah, it's a skill that you need to get because uh, even though um, even though I use all this stuff, I sometimes make a mistake. So sometimes I used a wrong angle with my razor, straight razor, and I have to do a lot of relining with it. Sometimes I just butcher it with some of my other axes that I used a wrong angle or I wobbled a little bit too much and I made a crack by doing that in the wrong way. So those are things that are easily avoided if you have the patience and the will to learn this skill. So I'm still learning to do the more finer job because sharpening is not a problem, but I'm still struggling with getting my knives razor sharp, and that's what I'm trying to learn right now. Uh, it's starting to work sometimes, but yeah, that's the thing about preppers. We never stop learning new things, and that's what it's all about. Always keep learning new things, learn new skills. So yeah, I rambled enough. So thank you for watching and see you in the next video. Cheers.